And we're back.
Once again, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
We're the horror guys here to talk to you about horror movies.
56 episodes in.
Can you believe it?
We've still got movies for you.
Yeah.
Haven't run out of horror movies yet.
You know, it's funny. I keep thinking we're going to run out, but this week, there's more.
Every week we watch 4 and put 9 more on the list.
Yeah, we do.
Our to-watch list I think we're up to like the year 2070 now.
Mm-hmm. So we saw lots of good things.
We did. This week we're going to look at Night Monster from 1942, Universal Black and White. The Evil of Frankenstein from 1964. Just how evil was it? You'll find out.
Yeah.
Midsommar from 2019. And Tetsuo, the Iron Man, Japanese, 1989.
Not the Marvel Iron Man.
Not even close.
No, a different Iron Man.
Very different Iron Man.
And why is he called the Iron Man? Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
But first... Night Monster, eh?
The Night Monster.
From 1942.
Universal classic movie from 1942. Did you like it?
Overall, yeah.
Overall, I thought this was pretty meh.
I thought it was less than meh.
It had some really dumb bits to it.
Well, yeah, but it was just because of the tropes.
Well, not all the Universals are dumb. Even the ones with a lot of tropes. This one I think it probably was kind of dumb in 42.
Tropier than trope?
Yeah.
I'd bet it was not dumb in 1942. I bet people thought it was documentary.
Had you even heard of this movie before this week?
Well, no.
Yeah, it's not one of their classics. Directed by Ford Beebe. Writer is Clarence Upson Young. Stars Bela Lugosi, Lionel Atwill, and Leif Erikson. Runtime, 1 hour, 13 minutes. Well, star power like that, you can't go wrong.
Well, they kind of
did.
Bella for the name recognition more than his role.
Both of them, really, yeah.
Yeah, not much as far as roles. Yeah, neither. Yeah, Lionel neither.
Yeah, I don't know Leif Erikson from anything. He's a pirate or a Viking or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Went on to become an actor.
Yeah. Well, Margaret Ingston yells at the maid for cleaning up a blood spot on the stairs, but there can't actually be any blood there. She accuses the maid of making her think that she's insane. You're just trying to make me think I'm crazy. Not so sure of herself, she's already sent to the city for a psychiatrist to come out to the house. The maid freaks out and insists that Margaret cancel the car because Laurie, the chauffeur, is already on the way to meet Mr. Ingston's own doctors at the train. Can't have a psychiatrist come and see the other doctors.
Having a whole bunch of doctors coming.
Yeah, it's like a medical convention. Mm-hmm. The maid then orders Margaret to go to her room. And who's in charge here?
Apparently the maid.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Because Margaret goes to her room.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
All right, I'd do it. Mm-hmm. Millie, a whole different maid, calls the police. But Rolf the butler hangs up the phone.
Well, there's a difference between maid and housekeeper. And
true.
Yes.
The first one was the old lady housekeeper.
She was the housekeeper.
Yeah.
Yes.
The boss maid.
Yes. And
I've seen Downton Abbey. I know how these things work.
And the butler is the head of household.
Yes.
You know. Well, not really. The butler is more of a manservant, isn't it? No, which is which now?
Yeah, the butler runs the house.
Yeah, the butler is. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I think he does a couple of different things, but it seems like Laurie does most of the real work, the heavy lifting, so to speak, in this case.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so she quits and heads to town with Laurie in the car. Laurie's a bit of a perv, and he grabs her, but she runs off and gets a ride elsewhere. Laurie then goes to the train station and picks up Doctors King, Phipps, and Timmons. Millie goes straight to the police, but the constable there can't do anything without any evidence. Still, they say there have been murders nearby. So, not a great location.
Watch yourself when you're out in the swamp.
Yeah. And of course, this is always right on the road, right next to the swamp. So there's always a swamp. Mm-hmm. Dr. Harper hears a scream on the road, which we see is Millie, who has run into some trouble. Dr. Harper then meets up with Dick, a horror writer, and they head to the house as well. Dr. Harper, who happens to be a woman psychiatrist, notices that there are bars on her bedroom window. That's not typical.
Not normal.
The three doctors regret their failure, which left Ingston an invalid. They performed some kind of surgery on him that went badly.
Very badly.
Very badly.
Very badly. He's half the man he used to be.
I wonder what kind of surgery it was that wound up that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Inkston explains that he's going to reward the three in the manner they deserve.
Ominous, yeah.
He's even got artificial limbs that he's had someone build for him. At one point, he picks up a cup of tea and drinks it, and he's got no arms. So, yeah, I think a little before its time for 1942. A little sci-fi there for
no
for
arms or legs.
Yeah. He's been researching regeneration of missing limbs. He's learned it from Mr. Singh, his not really, but let's pretend Indian mentalist and yogi.
Brown face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy's walking down the street in the very first shot of the movie with this big turban on his head. I'm like,
that's how you know he's an Indian.
Why is that guy a turban wearing it? Is he like a mind reader in a circus? No, he was supposed to be Indian.
He was supposed to be an Indian.
Well, Mr. Singh says he can control things with his mind. I guess I wasn't completely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He demonstrates by making a skeleton appear and is holding a box that drips with blood. Inside the box is a blood ruby inscribed with a death curse. Singh then passes out, and both the skeleton and the ruby vanish. The pool of blood on the carpet remains.
Which is why the housekeeper's always cleaning up blood. I guess they keep experimenting, playing around with these things.
The constable finds Millie's body out in the swamp and follows the footprints to the Inkstons' house. Margaret talks to Dr. Harper, explaining that she's seen scary things in the backyard, as well as bloodstains on the carpet. The thing outside has a distorted face, but then Laurie comes in and orders Margaret to bed, because he knows she's not supposed to be talking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The constable comes in and wants to measure everyone's feet to match the footprints he found out in the swamp.
Because they're really big footprints.
Yeah. He calls for all the men in the house to assemble. Rolf the butler finds Dr. King dead on the bedroom floor. He was strangled, but there's a trail of blood that goes out the door. How do you get a trail of blood from strangling somebody?
Huh.
Well, there's much talk about the curse from the ruby. The next morning, they find Dr. Timmons dead as well. The constable wants to arrest Mr. Singh, but he doesn't have any proof. Singh says, hold on a bit, he thinks he knows who the murderer is. Margaret accuses Inkston, saying he's gone insane after becoming crippled. About this time, Dr. Phipps is killed as well, and there's another trail of blood that leads to a wall with a secret door.
Panel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dick and the constable then accuse Inkston, who shows them that he has no arms or legs. He's like, yeah, I did it, I'm guilty, and he pulls the blanket off, and he's got no legs below the knee, no arm, and he's wandering around the house strangling grown men.
Yeah.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
So he obviously could not have done it.
Yeah, his prosthetic arms, it's very rudimentary.
Yeah.
He can grip a mug, and put it in.
Drink a glass of tea.
Yeah,
strangling somebody's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not full function by any means.
Yeah.
No.
Well, they find Laurie's body hanging in the closet next. Margaret helps Dick and Dr. Harper to escape, and then she sets the house on fire, with her and the maid locked in the burning room. Dick and Dr. Harper run through the woods, chased by some lumbering creature that, it turns out to be Inkston after all.
Huh.
Inkston then attacks Dick, but before he can get to Harper, he is shot by Singh. Singh and the constable find Inkston, with newly regrown legs, materialized, just like Mr. Singh's skeleton.
And they fade as he dies. Yeah, he used the power of his mind to
grow his legs back.
Well, and arms, too. Mm-hmm. That's why he was strangling them.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Okay, well, shall I begin my list of plot holes?
Proceed.
The cast starts out large, but there's still enough people alive at the end to make it not entirely clear who the murderer was until the final reveal. Wasn't really sure it was him. It seemed likely that it was Inkston all along, but the method was kind of too silly to guess. Also, Inkston had a reason to kill the three doctors. Why did he kill Laurie and Millie?
Because he could.
But Laurie was kind of on his side. He carried him around and did everything he asked. He was the loyal servant.
Because he was insane.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah.
The two big name stars, Lugosi and Atwill, don't have much to do here. Atwill was the first to die after giving only one short speech, and Lugosi was the butler who just sort of disappeared partway through the film. He didn't die. He didn't get killed.
He just kind of went away.
He didn't show up at the end. We didn't see him in the burning house. He gone.
Yeah.
turned into a bat and flew off. Yeah, overall, it's not their best work.
No,
did not like it.
It was okay. It was better than mediocre. Yeah.
Better than mediocre.
It was better than mediocre.
Film of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of mediocre. Speaking of mediocre.
The Evil of Frankenstein, eh?
1964 Hammer film.
At least it was in color, though. They
I
didn't
had that
invent
going
color
for
by
it.
then. Yeah.
That's about all we can say for this one.
Peter Cushing, not his best work.
He wasn't bad.
Well, I mean, he was
all right.
Okay, his work was fine.
Everything else sucked.
Pretty much. It was just not the best Frankenstein movie at all.
Yeah, directed by Freddie Francis, written by Anthony Hines, and stars Peter Cushing, Peter Woodthorpe, Duncan Lamont, and 1 hour, 24 minutes.
And Kiwi Kingston as the Beast.
The very famous Kiwi Kingston as the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that just sounds funny, but I have no idea what he looks like. I bet he was a comedian.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We didn't look him up.
So, did you like it? There was so much meh to this movie. I didn't care enough to look him up.
I thought this was less than mediocre.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Easily the worst Frankenstein movie we've seen.
Uh-huh.
And some of those later Universals were down there pretty far.
Worst one I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, I'll bet I've heard there's worse coming.
Oh, probably, but we haven't seen
something to look forward to.
Worst one that I've seen.
Well, we begin with a henchman stealing a nice fresh corpse out of a shed. The dead body's parents returns with a priest and find the body missing. He takes the body to Frankenstein's lab where the good doctor has been busy. Frankenstein cuts out the man's heart as the credits roll. Yeah, and there's a story in the trivia that Peter Cushing was cutting cabbage, making these bone grinding sounds.
And they thought that was too graphic sounding. So
the censors made them cut it out.
They put music over it. Yeah. You just see his motions as he's cutting the rib cage open and taking the heart out and dissecting the corpse. And,
Well, the priest confronts the henchman, but Frankenstein and Hans have already disposed of the body in acid.
Body? What body?
The priest breaks in and starts trashing the lab, but Frankenstein runs him off. Hans says he'll get the carriage, and the two of them leave town right then. Frankenstein is kind of broke at this point. He's got no money, so he decides to go back to Karlstad, where his original home was. He hopes the visitors have a short memory, since it's only been 10 years since the first film. The plan is to pick up some artwork and treasures from his castle, sell them, and use the money to restart his experiments.
And the castle's just been sitting there empty for 10 years, and he thinks that all these artworks and priceless sculptures and everything are still just going to be there.
Well, he knows he's not dead. He probably just figured they'd lock the door and save it for him, because he's maybe a little entitled.
They practically ravaged the place, razed the place to the ground.
He doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, the last he was at the castle was the one where Christopher Lee fell through the skylight into the acid.
Mm-hmm.
The building didn't burn down or nothing in that one.
Yeah, but the peasants were revolting.
They're always revolting. What is it with peasants?
Yeah, I can't believe they wouldn't have stormed the place and looted it completely.
Yeah, well, these peasants are having a carnival, and sure enough, they don't notice the strangers driving through town.
Yeah, a couple more people just blend in.
Yeah. Well, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
They arrive at Baron Frankenstein's chateau, and it's clearly been neglected and abandoned. The place has been ransacked, and any treasures that Frankenstein might have had once are long gone.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Pretty much.
Hey, you know that rich guy lives up on the hill? We ran him out of town. He ain't never coming back. He's got no children, no heirs. Nobody's going to come to... Hey, that castle's just sitting up there full of good stuff.
I like that painting that's over the fireplace. I want that. Yeah.
Well, we get a long flashback. Yeah, there we go. A long flashback with no dialogue as the doctor tells Hans what happens that night long ago. It's not exactly the same story from the 1957 movie, but it's close enough.
Pretty close.
Yeah. They refilmed it with a new actor, and it's a little different. Afterwards, the doctor and Hans go to town for dinner, but he doesn't seem concerned that he'll be recognized because it's carnival and they can wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
He recognizes the burgomaster who caused him all that trouble back in the day.
And is wearing his ring.
Yeah.
Thief.
He stands up and calls him a thief.
Very subtle, yeah.
Who's accusing me of being a thief? Oh, it's you.
And then, he starts, stands up and starts yelling, and then everybody starts recognizing him.
Yeah, because, Frankenstein's not real smart. What? Really? Well, they're back on the run. They end up hiding in Zoltan the Hypnotist's tent, and trapped and surrounded, they have to make their escape over the mountain pass where the monster was killed 10 years ago.
And there's one scene where it was so obvious, where he's, Dr. Frankenstein, he's in the carriage, standing in the carriage, whipping the horses on at high speed to get away, plows through
that's later,
the peasants.
Yeah, I know.
It is later? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was thinking it was then, but yeah. It's just so obviously a stunt double.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
It's Frankenstein's stunt double after him.
Well, they follow a strange, mute woman into a cave system, and you'll never guess what they find inside.
The monster?
Yep.
Frozen in ice.
Mm-hmm. Frankenstein decides that he needs to restore life to the creature by taking him back to the chateau, the very place he said they could never go again after last night.
Yeah, well.
It's been like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Nobody will be watching that place.
Yeah, they'll forget all about it.
Somehow, the doctor and Hans get the creature's body back to the castle and repair all the equipment in the lab. They turn on the equipment, and it doesn't work. The creature's brain just doesn't work right anymore.
Yeah, sad.
They decide to contact Zoltan, the hypnotist, to see if he can work on the creature's mind by hypnosis. He's convinced, or maybe intimidated, into trying to wake the creature. He didn't want to have anything to do with it at first. Zoltan places the monster in hypnotic sleep, and when he wakes up, he's very disoriented and, monstery.
Yeah.
Frankenstein thanks Zoltan and says,
Thank you.
Wow. Frankenstein thanks Zoltan and sends him on his way.
Not that easy.
Zoltan, of course, has a better idea. Zoltan tells the doctor that the monster will never obey you.
Yeah, he's hypnotized him to only obey Zoltan.
Mm-hmm. Zoltan demonstrates easily that he has control over the creature. When he's alone, he orders the monster to go to town and steal him some gold. Zoltan next orders the monster to go to town and kill the burgomaster and chief of police. Subtle.
Mm-hmm. Very, very
Well,
subtle.
Frankenstein finds out, and he and Hans beat Zoltan up. Zoltan turns the monster against them. Frankenstein backs the monster off with fire, and the monster kills Zoltan to escape. Oops.
Yeah.
That plan didn't work
Didn't
out.
go so well for him.
The police nab Frankenstein, but Hans and the mute girl follow the monster. The doctor managed to escape, stealing a wagon and driving out of town with the villagers in hot pursuit.
That's the one.
And it is kind of a neat scene. He's got like this flat ox cart, and he's standing on it, riding it. It's kind of like a chariot or something. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of a neat scene.
And some of it is him, but then there's the long scene. That's so clearly a stunt double.
There's no way they're not going to let a stunt double do that scene.
Yeah.
Well, they all convene back at the castle, where the monster gets good and drunk and collapses the ceiling, setting the place on fire and burning himself and the doctor to death inside the lab, for real, forever this time.
Yep, we'll never see the monster or Frankenstein again.
Ever. Nope, not going to have it.
All done.
Well,
it was kind of a hot mess, though.
It wasn't. I only pointed out a couple of potholes there, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
The monster looks really bad here. Mm-hmm. The makeup and prosthetics are just not very good. He's got like this square block sticking out of the front of his head.
Blockhead.
You ever see anybody hold a Viewmaster up to their face?
Looked very much like that.
He had a tragic accident as a child. Mm-hmm. Got embedded in there. Things were going well until Frankenstein decided to bring in the carnival hypnotist to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was just the closest thing to a neurosurgeon they had in Karlstadt.
Well, it probably was. Yeah.
I got a brain tumor. Oh, let's get the hypnotist.
Yeah. Desperate. Yeah.
Overall, the flashback was too long, the makeup was too bad, the dialogue was too stupid, the concept of hypnosis was too ridiculous, and overall the film was just too awful to recommend.
Yeah, what he said. It was less than mediocre.
Yeah, I'd give this 3, maybe a 4.
Yeah.
Because it's in color. That's the big selling point on this one. So you see any heavily hyped movies this week?
Why, I saw Midsommar.
And we're sitting here in midwinter watching Midsommar.
In 2019, a 2019 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, newish, very newish.
Directed by Ari Aster, the guy from Hereditary. Mm-hmm. Stars Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, and Wilhelm Blomgren. 2 monstrous hours and 27 extra minutes.
And there's a director's cut that's an extra half an hour longer.
Yeah, there is.
Wow.
So what'd you think?
Pretty to look at, but oh my God, it was long.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, again, the hype we had read for this movie for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's the greatest movie of the year. It's the greatest movie of the decade. It's the greatest movie of all time.
I didn't hate it. I quite liked it, but
it was fine.
Way too long.
It was fine.
For the payoff at the end, the payoff that starts getting there at the end, it took an hour to get there and another half hour.
If it had been an
that.
hour shorter, I'd say it was better than Hereditary. And that's not saying too much, but I did not like Hereditary.
They could have easily cut an hour, yeah.
Yeah, they could have.
Yeah.
They did cut a half hour out of the 3-hour monstrosity.
Don't stop. Keep cutting. Keep cutting.
Okay, so I'll give this one a solid 6.
7.
You're being generous.
Mm.
Okay.
I enjoyed it more than disliked it, so therefore 7.
It got better toward the end.
Well, but
man,
forever to
get to the end.
Yeah, jeez.
Well, Danny calls her parents late at night to check in. She's worried because her sister sent some very disturbing emails. Danny doesn't see, but we do, that the parents are lying in bed, very dead. Her sister has killed them in a murder-suicide. She calls her boyfriend, who blows it off as another of her sister's ploy for attention games. Danny then sits around and worries that she's being too needy, and her boyfriend is getting ready to dump her. Meanwhile, Christian, the boyfriend, and his friends are talking about him actually dumping her. Mm-hmm. We soon see that the sister has arranged a very complicated and involved method of gassing the parents in their bedroom. They're still very dead, and the credits roll. Yeah. You know, there are much easier ways to kill, murder-suicide somebody. They get like this long hose attached to the tailpipe of the car.
2 cars.
Run through the garage door, up the stairs, down the hallway, and into the parents' bedroom.
1 hose for them and 1 hose for her.
Well, the 1 hose for her in her bedroom, that would work real quick. She'd be out fast. But it would take a long time to fill a bedroom with that hose. And wouldn't the parents smell something and wake up, possibly?
You'd think so. Maybe she drugged them, too.
Well, that would work. It just seems a little convoluted.
A little bit. Yeah.
Well, some time passes, and Christian says he's going on a trip to Sweden with his college friends. They're going to go to an authentic hippie midsummer. And this is some kind of big summer festival. They call it a midsummer, which is basically just Swedish for midsummer. It's spelled differently, though.
With an A instead of an E. Yeah.
Danny lays on a huge guilt trip, so Christian invites Danny to go along, assuming she won't do it.
But
never
surprise,
do this.
She does.
None of his friends really like Danny, as she's depressed and needy all the time.
And did you notice the guy from Sweden was manipulating right from the beginning? Because he did
get her crying then, yeah.
He needed 4 people to come. Mm-hmm. He needed...
Spoilers.
Yeah, he needed...
Yeah, you're right, though, he did.
He needed Danny to come, too.
Yeah. Well, there's a 9-day festival that Pele, one of the guys, his family is putting it on.
Yes, he's from the little village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 5 of them go to Sweden the following summer. She's still crying at the drop of a hat, even months after the deaths. The minute they land, the drugs come out and get passed around.
Mushrooms!
She gets some weird visions and passes out in the field. Well, the next morning, they all just sleep out in the field, they head on to the festival. There's mention of a tick infestation, and everyone gets grossed out just talking about it. And nothing else came of that. There were no ticks.
It was just some chatting while they were hiking.
Well, there's a big if you read the trivia, there was a big deal about the director and a couple of the stars being terrified of ticks.
Oh, yeah.
I bet there was something in the deleted scenes involving ticks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I've found some plot holes here that I'm thinking were probably in the long version that we didn't see.
Oh, okay.
And no, I don't have any desire to see the long version now.
Huh.
Okay, so the tick infestation goes nowhere. They're then greeted by Pele's family and a bunch of locals. This commune looks very cult-like. It's been 90 years since the last big feast, and it'll be 90 more years until the next one. The 9-day feast will commence, and an old woman yells, "Spirits, back to the dead!" And I'm like, ooh, there's going to be ghosts. No.
Just crazy people.
Christian then asks, hey, what's that building over there? And is told that it's a sort of temple and that no one's allowed inside. Christian forgets that today is Danny's birthday. One more demonstration that he's a bit of a pig. The breakfast meal is very ritualistic, structured, and weird as two old people chant and have a drink. Then they all go stare at a mountain for a long time until the old people are carried up there on chairs.
There's quite a lot of staring in this.
Yeah.
They would sit and stare. They would all sit in a group and stare.
Meditating, silent prayer, that sort of thing. That didn't really tip me off because of what kind of thing this was. Well, the Americans all watch this ceremony, and they're clearly getting really bored, and so are we. The old people then cut their hands, rub blood into a sacred stone, and dive off the mountain to their deaths. The old woman pops like a watermelon at a Gallagher show, but the old man doesn't quite die from the fall, so they beat his head in with a giant hammer. Also, just like a Gallagher show.
Which they have standing by.
Yeah.
Actually, as soon as I saw the giant hammer, I knew what was coming, and I knew that's why the giant hammer was there.
It's a head-bashing hammer.
It's a finishing off hammer.
Bonk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very gory.
Yeah.
Then they burn the bodies and pour the ashes on their ancestral tree. Okay. And this is like over an hour into it. And this is the first sign of anything actually weird going on.
But the matron of the group, the tourists, anthropologists, the group, the visitors kind of freak out at this, understandably.
Yeah.
But she explains, that this is their way, and she does a good job at getting them calmed down and settled down. Except for the
I
one,
think they're all
the
students
couple
are anthropology majors, so they're kind of okay. It's cultural. We'll go with it.
The one couple is still mighty freaked out by it, but it's the age of 72 that this is what they do, rather than get old and infirm and die of old age and die in pain and alone and everything. That they do this ceremony and they're all together and it's peaceful and drugged up enough, I guess, that it didn't hurt and.
Okay,
So anyways, age 72 is your limit if you're living in this commune.
Yeah. Oops. Okay, so they're told it's a custom, and you covered that. Yeah. Of course, this ritual suicide triggers Danny's memories, and she freaks out. Christian and Josh then start arguing about doing their theses on this ritual. Mm-hmm. Mark then pees on the ancestral tree.
By accident.
Got to pee somewhere.
He's got to pee,
a big tree laying
and it's
there.
just a dead tree laying there, and he goes around to behind it out of sight. And
so
the villagers freak out.
Oh boy, do they, yeah. Simon, one of the visitors from London, is said to have left early, but no one saw him go. Not even his fiancée, Connie, which is kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to say goodbye or something.
Yeah, but all the villagers say, oh, no, he
it's
left.
All right. Yeah,
it's all right, yeah.
Josh is then allowed to read the Holy Book, because he's one of those anthropology students, and we hear that these people's oracles are all the result of inbreeding. Later, Connie goes missing as well. Supposedly, she met Simon at the train station.
Yep, nothing to worry about. They just left.
Yeah. That night, Josh sneaks out while everybody's asleep. He goes back to the house where the Holy Book is kept, and he takes photos of the pages.
Which he had asked.
And they said no.
The priest was horrified that he would even ask.
Yeah.
And no. And
while
so
he's doing this,
does it anyway.
Someone whacks him with a hammer, as someone else standing there is wearing Mark's skin now.
At first, Josh thought it was Mark.
Yeah.
And he gets
Some of him.
Gets closer, and
And I assume whatever actually happened to Mark was also in one of those cut scenes. He was one of the major characters, and he just shows up dead all of a sudden.
I don't know if it was or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see the long version now, but...
I kind of do, too.
It's not worth it.
Uh-huh.
Well, the town elders confront the other Americans and say one of their holy books is missing, and they want to know where Josh and Mark have gone. They really don't seem to know what happened.
They know darn well where Josh and Mark have gone.
Well, it was not clear at that time. I was wondering if maybe it was just a small group of them doing the killings.
Oh, like a subgroup.
The two old men that were asking about the book seemed innocent enough. Yeah, well. Yeah, they weren't. Then it's time for the big dance-off competition, and Danny drinks some of their weird tea concoction. They dance until they fall. It's a test of stamina.
Yeah, all the young women dance. It's like a sort of a maypole kind of dance, and they dance and dance to live music until they literally start keeling over from dizziness and nausea,
I don't know how much stamina it is and how much they were so high they couldn't stand up.
Both.
Because it didn't seem to go on that long.
Yeah. It was a combination.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Maya, one of the locals, has put a love spell on Christian, and he's told that the commune has approved of their mating. They need that outside blood once in a while to stem off the inbreeding.
Too much inbreeding is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the dancing continues, and Christian drinks the special tea as well. Danny eventually survives the dancing trial and becomes the May Queen. Mm-hmm. Danny then is sent off to bless the crops, and Christian stays behind to sow his wild oats with Maya, with a bunch of witnesses.
And he's all drugged up. And
it may be the most awkward sex scene ever.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
Danny finishes early and catches him in the act. Christian soon finds out what happened to Josh, Simon, Mark, and the others. Then the villagers knock him out. The May Queen, Danny, has to choose the 9th offering to the group's god. There were 4 outsiders, 4 from the family, and she must choose number 9. Who
will it be?
She chooses Christian, who is placed inside a hollowed-out bear carcass, awake and conscious, but drugged so much that he cannot move. All 9 volunteers and bodies are placed in the special temple, which is then set on fire. Danny finally, for the first time in the movie, smiles as she watches it all burn. The end.
And that sums it up.
Yeah.
There's more to happen than that. More details, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's pretty much what happened. Well, the scenery and settings are really bright and attractive. Mm-hmm. The constant ongoing shots of people running and playing out in the field consistently had me asking why they were doing these things other than just to look idyllic and frolicky.
They were idyllic, frolicky people.
Yeah. Why were the old people upset about a missing book when they knew darn well that they had killed Josh and that he hadn't stolen it? It's probably a red herring to make the remaining Americans think Josh had run off with it.
Oh, yeah, I think that's all it was.
And it's very slow-paced, and it's more than an hour before the 2 old people die, which is the only really weird thing that happens until the very end. None of the characters are particularly likable. Christian is a pig, and Danny cries literally all the time to the point of being mentally unstable. It's a very slow burn, and the ending was good, but it was far too brief for all the build-up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's traumatized, and I get that, but it's been like 5 or 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Get some help, or move on, or something. I mean, that's not nice to say for real people, but this is a movie, and it's supposed to be entertaining. I don't want to see the main character crying throughout because she's on an airplane.
Yeah.
I know, I'm harsh.
A little harsh, but you hear me disagreeing.
Yeah. No, I did not hear you disagreeing. And lastly, we have an international film.
Tony Stark as the Iron Man.
Yeah, no.
No?
You're close.
Tetsuo the Iron Man.
That'll do it.
Made in 1989.
Yes, black and white, surprisingly enough.
Artsy-fartsy.
Directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, written by him also. Stars Tomoro Taguchi, Kei Fujiwara, and Nobu Kaneoka. 1 hour, 7 minutes.
Japanese subtitles.
Hi.
Not a lot of subtitles, though. Not a lot of dialogue.
Okay, so we watched this one mostly in shocked silence. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, I said I really didn't want to hear what you had to say about it, and we'd save it for the show. What'd you think?
I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting and entertaining. It reminded me of, and right around this time, Ministry, industrial rock band, was doing some of, in my opinion, some of their best work. And I kept thinking, this could be a Ministry music video, and the music.
It was used in a music video for somebody, but not them.
Not them, yeah. But and the music kept reminding me of Ministry around that era too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All in all, it was
okay.
Yeah.
Thumbs
up.
I definitely liked it. I will thumbs up it. It's weird.
It's very weird.
You'll love it or you'll hate it. One or the other. There's not much in the middle on this one.
Not a typical horror movie at all.
Well, this black and white film begins with long panning shots over a bunch of wet-looking metal and junk. The shot concludes with a man, called the metal fetishist, jamming a metal rod into his own leg, causing blood to squirt everywhere.
But it's black and white, so it's not.
Yeah. I bet this would have looked really silly in color. some of the bits and pieces that they had stuck to people. I'll bet they were in black and white because it wouldn't have worked in color.
I think it helped. Yeah.
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 Okay, so he pushes the metal bar down into his leg, sort of something like an interior splint. He then bandages it up and wraps it all up, and later on he unwraps it and finds it's covered in maggots.
Ew.
And he gets up and runs away in a panic. He's then hit by a car and run over as the credits roll. As the title comes up, another man in a business suit has some kind of seizure. Or maybe it's just a weird dance. It's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, looking back on it, that was him being infected.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The businessman is shaving in front of a mirror and gets a jagged piece of metal stuck in his face.
No, it's coming out of his face.
It's coming out of his face?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was already starting to sprout.
All right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Blinked or something on that one.
Yeah.
A phone rings, and his girlfriend asks if he's feeling all right since the hit-and-run accident. He starts getting weird visions of a woman with metal stuck to her face. The woman then chases him through the train station. She eventually catches up to him and beats him with her Borg-like implants. First thing I thought of was
yes,
the Borg hands.
She was very Borg-like. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I got the impression that they fight, and when he fights back, we cut away to the man in the initial scene who seems to now be buried in machines. And I got the impression at this point that he may turn out to be some kind of puppet master controlling the crazy woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was the case.
No.
The businessman seems to win the battle, but finds that his arm and ankle now have metal parts growing out of them now. And these are like big screws and metal bars, and it's not just random metal shavings. We then get a weird scene where a woman does sexual things with a long metal hose attached where women shouldn't have a hose. She rapes the man with this robotic device. Then he wakes up and everything's normal, except the cut on his face from shaving looks infected now.
Fever dream.
Yeah.
What a fever dream that was.
Yeah, that was all just a dream.
Yeah.
Then he decides to have normal-ish sex with his girlfriend, at least until he has a vision of more weirdness, followed... You're laughing.
When it becomes not normal.
Followed by his penis turning into a giant drill and destroying the kitchen table. That turns out to be just the beginning of his transformation, as he then uses it against her. They fight. I mean, we're talking, it's a great big drill thing. They fight, and there's a lot of blood. She stabs him in the neck with a knife, but it doesn't kill him. But while he's unconscious, his robo-penis has a mind of its own and kills the girl. The man then has a dream in which the metal fetishist stands up and we can finally see him clearly. There's a different man who says, "You have a piece of metal inserted in your brain. You shouldn't even be alive. You'll die if it's removed." Which I took to be some kind of a doctor or something, but we don't know what that's about.
We don't know.
There's a good bit in here I can't explain.
Yeah, it's just weird. Too weird to explain.
Yeah. The next morning, we find our guy standing in the bathroom with the metal fetishist laying in his bathtub, and our businessman has been absorbing the parts from him. He touches him, and little bits suck into the metal fetishist and pop out on the businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's now a giant hulk of cables and spare parts. In the flashback, we see the man and his girlfriend driving down the street and running over the man on the road. They put him in the back of the car and dump him in the woods. Then the two of them have sex in front of the metal fetishist. Somehow, this whole thing is the metal fetishist's revenge.
Revenge of the fetishist.
Yeah. So the man and the fetishist then do battle. And it's just like something out of an anime or manga. They chase and fight each other all over town, culminating in a junkyard. The man ends up absorbing so much metallic crap that he cannot move anymore. The two finally end up merging and become one combined being who vows to rust the world. The end for now.
Until the sequel.
There's two sequels. Tetsuo Bullet Man and Tetsuo 2. Both of those are in color. They're probably not as good.
I can't picture them being as good.
I can't picture anything being as good. This is a mind-blowing thing here. This, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The whole thing was shot in grainy black and white in a frenetic, quick-cut style that just never lets up. At no point does it slow down for half a second.
And a driving, throbbing industrial metal soundtrack.
The soundtrack is, of
you're
course,
about to talk about
industrial
the
metal,
Oh, you're
and
about
it's
to talk
really,
about
really
that.
good.
Yeah, it is.
There's not much dialogue, so if you hate subtitles, watch it anyway. It's not nobody says anything important.
Don't
really.
have to read very much at all. Yeah.
Even the stuff that does come up in subtitles, you could just skip it. You can see what's going on. What's there isn't much to speak of, but it's clear what's happening once it gets going. There's a lot of time-lapse and stop-motion animation here, and although there were many times I had no damned idea what was going on, it was intense enough that I didn't want to look away for a second. It's something. You'll either love it or hate it, but no way I'm going to be able to guess which.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we were in the love it camp.
I was kind of blown away with this one. I wasn't expecting much, but some of the Japanese movies, they're either really good or they're really bad.
Yeah.
There's very little in between.
Uh-huh. Yeah. This was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's our show for this week.
That's all.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in at horrorguys.com to read all the reviews, sign up for our mailing list, and do lots of other good stuff. Are we going to be back next week?
I think we should. Yeah.
Are we going to watch movies?
It's become a habit. We should keep doing this.
Has, yeah. Okay, next week we're going to look at... Oh, that's different.
What's that?
No Hammer film.
No Hammer?
No Universal film. We're going to watch 4 movies from 2019.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It's time to get caught up with modern films.
And what?
We're going to watch The Lighthouse.
Why'd
you spill your beans?
Can't wait to find out how that line fits in. The line
Seen
from
that
the
in the
previews.
trailer so many times. Crawl. Is that the one where they get the alligators?
I think
it is.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Us, the people from Get Out,
Yeah.
and One Cut of the Dead, which is a sort of a comic zombie thing.
Okay.
All from 2019.
I'm in favor of seeing these.
So, yeah, we should probably get on that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we'll see you next week.
See ya.